thanks so much for joining us today to talk about your experience with JumpCloud. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you, Chris. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. It's definitely my pleasure. So maybe we can start off by learning a little bit more about you and your role.
Absolutely. So I'm Tony Safoian. I'm the CEO of SADA, which is now, as of December 2023, part of Insight. So SADA is an Insight company, and it's a incredible milestone for us after 23 and a half years of being, an independent private company. And we're just sort of being propelled into this new world of what it means for us, with a lot of excitement, a lot more work to do to address, a much bigger opportunity as part of Insight. So, of course, that includes the work we're doing with Workspace and JumpCloud. So we're just getting those things underway, and really fortunate to be in the Google ecosystem for 17 years now, running, and really, really fortunate part of that journey being an actual launch partner back in 2007, if you could believe it, for what is now Google Workspace. It's gone by various names over time, but that's I can't believe how lucky we were to be in the right place at the right time, so that fast forward, we could be in this position to form partnerships like this, serve the customers that we do, and coming just out of Google Cloud Next, continue to be recognized year over year for our work with our customers and in this ecosystem.
Yeah, well, it's a great time to congratulate you on yet another award. You seem to be sort of Global Partner of the Year, which is super cool. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Very proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely, you should be. And you mentioned 23 and a half years, which is some serious innings for a company. I don't know if that's a phrase that you use over there. But I mean, that predates the Google Workspace. So what was the history of the company, and what were you doing before Google came along?
So the initial idea behind SADA was that, my father, who was a technologist his whole life, worked in IT, saw a tremendous opportunity to serve customers, and he had an idea to start SADA originally around application development. He knew that applications were the foundation of any business. And so, our first customer was one that we were writing a .NET application for, that would ride on top of an accounting application that would streamline the workflow in their auto wholesale business. So that was sort of the roots of the company. When I joined 6 months after the company was founded, of course, I didn't know how to write software, but I did know how sort of IT systems worked and networks functioned and computers worked. So I started to do what I knew how to do, which is set up basic networks and help people with their, email systems and things like that. And that was part of the precipice for our appreciation about how important communication and collaboration is important in any business. So we're basically setting up, networks and exchange servers and helping small businesses be, I guess, digital in that, in that wave of being digital. And yeah, so we've been doing, email identity for a very, very long time. So our roots are actually in the Microsoft ecosystem, which is kind of that's what it was back then, predominantly. And we had a great Microsoft business for many, many years. We sold that and divested that in almost exactly 5 years ago now, in 2019. And of course, with Insight now, we joined once again to one of the biggest Microsoft partners in the world. So that's an interesting turn of events. But our job remains fundamentally at SADA to be the Google business unit with an Insight that I get to run, which is amazing. So I just feel like we found the most, fantastic home for our baby. And every year we think the opportunity can get bigger and the addressable market can get bigger, but now we're in this position to do even more than we've ever done because of Insight's amazing global reach, and there are 30,000 existing customers that they have, and so on and so forth. So that's where we are in 2024 with, after all these years, still feel like we have a lot to prove.
Yeah, exciting times ahead. I'm confident it's going to be a huge success. But we talk a little about Google Workspace, and you're probably then the most qualified person in the world to answer this question, I guess, because you've been there since day one through the various names and things. But what do you see as the main benefits of Google Workspace for businesses?
So Google Workspace, originally back at the launch was really the only way to get enterprise grade cloud email. I mean, just think about 2006, 2007 timeframe. So that was the sort of selling point back then that, if you believe in cloud and you did the work that we did, which is kind of try to manage email in any other way, you knew that, that was like the superior way to do it. Nobody wants to be in the business of managing email. But as it's evolved, and other platforms have also launched, good cloud email options for organizations and companies at scale. I still think about, especially in preparation of this conversation, of the other things that, Google Workspace always stood for, which is endpoint choice and optionality, device agnostic, browser native, cloud native, and very early on, Google built, great reputation around security at the core of the platform, but also just collaboration and productivity, real-time collaboration, and so on. And of course, over time, all those functions and features have gotten a lot better. They've gotten more rich, but the fundamentally, when we deploy organizations like Turner Industries, who are 60-year-old construction companies, you don't think of being very tech forward in these areas. They themselves are like, oh my God, like this way of working. The COO quote early on in the project after they were, executive team was onboarded in one of the phases. It's like, I'm saving 8 hours a week, and just how much faster it is to get, our fundamental productivity work done. And I think that's still very, very true, but it's built, so many other things into it, obviously chat, Google Meet, and these things that a lot of organizations have spent a lot of time buying bespoke and just plugging together. It unifies in a single pane of glass, but that's really important not only from a security standpoint, but it's also very important from a standpoint of data silos. If your documents are in one platform and your chat is in another platform and your email is in another platform, it's like, well, where's the information I need to make decisions and to serve our customers and to collaborate with each other? It's in a bunch of different places. I think that makes things challenging. So Google Workspace has done a really good job of being, building these capabilities that are best in class, but also native. I think now with Gemini in Workspace, it's really about that next quantum leap of productivity, which is automating, refining so many of the remedial things we still tend to do as we communicate. We author content, we share content, we create content, and thinking for you, producing work for you, and doing it in a way that's, again, seamless and integrated in a browser on any device. And I think that is, including mobile, of course, and I think that is a very powerful value proposition. And we're just in the beginnings of seeing what's possible with Gemini in Workspace.
Yes, super exciting. I've seen some of the stuff, and I kind of tinker with Gemini a little, and it's really cool. But you mentioned the sort of benefits of Google Workspace there, and there are many. I've been a Google Workspace user for a long time as well, but as an individual user. But as from a management point of view, I mean, how easy is it to sort of tie all this together and manage the the Workspace solution?
So I think their admin capabilities are, extremely sophisticated and advanced with things that are in the, higher SKUs like Vault, etc., data retention, data protection. Their security capabilities. Again, I don't think there's ever been sort of a breach of a Google Workspace user. I think they have one of the best anti-phishing mechanisms and intelligence, threat intelligence built into the platform. With that being said, when you think about an enterprise implementation, you want to tie all this together to a broader security and identity and authentication strategy that's multi-device, multi-product, etc. So there's, it's definitely conducive to the right best-in-class ecosystem of ISVs to be plugged in around it. And we have a few, select few that we work with over time. Limapps for, more of the SharePoint-like functionality, and sometimes in combination with AO Docs. There's, Virtru for email encryption, and there's other players also kind of entering that space. There's a lot of great tools for enhanced productivity, as far as understanding the effectiveness of the adoption of the different parts of the platform that are very powerful. And of course, identity has been one of the things that has always been fundamental to customers moving to Google Workspace. I remember, you're going to laugh probably, but early days, 2007, 8, 9, like there was not a lot of support for other identity platforms, just in terms of even provisioning users. So one of our claims to fame back then was we were hired by Google to write what would end up as an open source toolkit just for large scale provisioning of users, and identity single sign-on around the SAML 2 framework, because like we had to write it because it didn't exist. So, the market's matured quite a bit, and we're not really in the tools business or in the SaaS business ourselves. We're letting JumpCloud and others kind of take up that space, which you're doing a tremendous job of.
Yeah, well, I guess luckily for us, you stepped out of that market, which is where we jump in. And I guess that leads on nicely to, I mean, how did you initially hear about JumpCloud?
We were introduced by Google. I think JumpCloud had made a tremendous impression to the global partner organization and the Google Workspace team. Those are two teams we work with very, very closely, not only on, winning customers and implementing the customer successfully, but how do we go to market, how we compete, how we package, how we position. And, JumpCloud sort of came in at the right place, right time, with a very holistic and novel approach to identity at a time where I think the incumbents had gotten maybe a little complacent, were not innovating enough. And, once we started to look at it, it just seemed like an obvious, almost a bundle in the way how we would think about going to market with Workspace. And we're actually in the process of creating actual bundles that bring Workspace and JumpCloud and a couple other those key types of players I mentioned together in a way that makes the proposition of adopting Google Workspace not only more compelling, but also just easier, more competitive, and removes a lot of the objections around barriers of entry of how we would do this at scale. So really fortunate to have been introduced. And of course, our teams have gotten very deep with the JumpCloud teams. I myself with Raj, I mean, really brilliant leadership there, really savvy product management, really savvy at navigating this complex ecosystem. And we couldn't be more proud of your success, and it's helping us win in various situations. And I think it's just the beginning of that journey together.
No, that's amazing to hear, and yeah, I agree. I think it's a great partnership, and I think you do a lot for us as well. I know that you've spoken on some of our calls, which has been super valuable for me, and I know the rest of the team. So it's fantastic to have you be working with you. So, I mean, if we look at the sort of benefits for your clients, I mean, how do you, I guess taking away the bundle aspect where it might be different, but how do you position JumpCloud to a typical client of yours?
Well, a lot of our clients going on this Workspace journey get stuck at the identity piece. It's a very important decision. A lot of them are on a process of modernizing how they think about, identity and security and management of, devices and personas and people and authentication and just scale. And I think for decades, there's just not been a lot of choice. There's been, of course, Active Directory, which has been the cornerstone of, so many enterprises and companies' identity strategy for a very long time. But if you're trying to, remove what you consider a legacy footprint, you want to remove as much of that as possible, right? And I think that's where, JumpCloud fits in extremely well. And the level of, evolution on the platform has also been extremely rapid, and we hope that it continues, because there was other alternatives of how you could do single sign-on, other players, and they're an important part of the ecosystem too, but I haven't seen anything as broad and as rapidly evolving and maturing as JumpCloud. And again, this is where I say, like, I feel like some of the other players might have taken their foot off the gas or gotten a little complacent or distracted, but I haven't seen anybody also as dedicated to this Google Workspace ecosystem, like making this integration work like almost like a native service, like at scale. There's others who are like, yeah, we support, authentication across and identity across a bunch of platforms. Of course, JumpCloud does that too, but its dedication to being not just a nice to have, but like a must have in the Google Workspace journey has also been what's very, very compelling for us. And I think that, again, the timing as far as the zeitgeist, like in our space, has been also tremendous. Security continues to be the number one concern of every CTO, CIO, CISO, because the threats are ever increasing and ever more sophisticated. Identity is a weak point traditionally. It's sort of how the bad actors get in, whether it's through phishing and other things. So again, much like Workspace, cross-platform, cross-device, Apple, Windows, Linux, mobile, and in such a rich set of capabilities has been, rare. So I think JumpCloud has occupied that space quite well.
Yeah, and you mentioned there about sort of Windows and Linux and Apple. Are you seeing sort of more of a trend to, or a challenge for businesses to kind of support these different operating system types?
Yeah, I think the trend over the last 5 to 10 years has been very much bring your own device, or at least choose your own device. Enterprise IT used to be very top down. Like, you get a BlackBerry and a ThinkPad, right? Like, that's what you get, and it's top down, and they're locked down, and they're kind of like clunky. They don't do a lot of the certain software you can't have, and all this other stuff. But I think organizations have realized that, productivity means different things to different people in terms of the device of their choice. Sometimes they want to use their own personal phone and with a couple of profiles for their work. Sometimes they want a dedicated phone. Like, how do you manage that? Bunch of people are more productive on Windows machines. Great. Others are developers. They want to be on some version of Linux. That's what they want to run. A bunch of people, I think, the market share of Mac and Apple devices in the enterprise certainly increased. So that is, that's traditionally been a challenge. If you've been completely homogeneous in your stack, much easier in a lot of ways, but that's just not the reality of today's corporate IT environment.
No, well, I guess if you think back to when you were deploying Exchange servers and probably BlackBerry servers, the percentage of Macs in the workplace then was probably minuscule, and that's
Yeah,
certainly changed now.
totally. Yeah, and I think that's great. People, look, a lot of the work that we all do is creative by nature, and we need to be agnostic in terms of what we support for our people. And I think multi-device, multi-OS, multi-platform multi-browser, like all those things are just really, really important. It just doesn't make sense to try to mandate, all those things top to bottom, and because you want to get the most creativity out of people, and you want to, let them use the devices that they love, you know.
Yeah, and it's a competitive sort of market for staff. So I think if you do kind of you are that regimented, they're probably going to go work somewhere else the way they can use the device they want to be
And the
productive.
number one question, I swear to you, I'm not kidding. When we announced this acquisition, a lot of excitement and all of that, and people are like, "Wait a minute, we can stay on Google Workspace, right?" Like, yes, yes, and we can stay on our Macs and whatever you want. Like that was literally the number. Like, oh my God, please don't make us switch to something we don't want or not used to or don't feel the most productive on, right? But again, even here, like we have a bunch of people on Windows, we have a bunch of people on iOS devices and different browsers and Android devices. Like that's great. That's people like love Windows here. They should use Windows. Like use whatever you want.
Yeah, we're the same. We've got people on Windows and people on Mac and a few people on Linux. So yeah, and BYOD or CYOD is definitely the way people want to work. So we need to find a way to make that happen, which you clearly are, which is cool. Right, just to wrap up then, we've got a sort of final question that you can answer in any way that you like is how has the partnership between SADA and JumpCloud benefited you and or your customers?
What I love about what we're doing for customers is again just providing that enterprise grade choice and alleviating a concern on this path to uh, be a more agile, creative, collaborative, organization that is also, by the way, more attractive to this generation of information workers that's entering the workspace. 80% plus have only used workspace in their educational journey. So whether that's K through 12 or university, the market share there is tremendous. Chrome, Google Workspace, and so on, Mac, so on and so forth. So that's we can provide that, including a complete confidence around their authentication, identity, security, and device strategy, which is a great thing. And unless we can do that, in a lot of cases, we just can't be competitive. So Workspace plus JumpCloud, tremendously strong story. And this is also a separate point, but an important point. I think what JumpCloud understands, Raj on down, is that this is really about joint go-to-market. So they've continuously expressed in their relationship building with us, like, what can we do for you? Not just this is what I need from SADA, which is obvious and clear. Like we need to get JumpCloud in front of as many customers as possible, and that's really important. And in most cases, that's also the right thing, and the best thing. But they're like, how can we find new customers together? How can we try this novel campaign? Let me connect you with this person. Let me connect you with that organization. It's really been like the way that your organization has leaned in to help us in areas that have no direct correlation with us selling more JumpCloud is really the blueprint for, I think, how all ISVs in this ecosystem should approach the market. So we talk all the time. We're very collaborative. Raj always has great ideas. And I think that just lays the foundation for a very strong and healthy relationship that is mutual, that's multifaceted. It's not transactional in the relationship. And I think that's really, really important.
No, I appreciate that. And you're right. Obviously, Raj is an ideas machine, seems to be within the organization. And you made a really good point there, which I've been sort of trying to research a little around the 80% and the education thing. I think Google have probably made a huge investment in education to ensure that people coming into the workforce or starting businesses are probably already very, very familiar with the Google Workspace experience and how that they can ramp that up.
And a lot of those, we, for the last decade or so, we'd say, okay, they're entering the workforce with this experience. Now they're sort of entering leadership and managerial roles where they get to make these decisions in their organization as well, which is helpful. So it's one thing to sort of grassroots approach of like new information workers coming in and wanting the tools, but now they're graduating to become some of the leaders making these decisions. So I think that's going to broadly help the market and help all of us win more, not in a way that is anything other than familiarity with something different, than what has been, I think top down mandated as, the other choice, the only choice for so many years. I think it's good for organizations to consider all options at this stage when they're making these decisions. And I think having those experienced folks in the decision seat is helping both of us.
Yeah, and choice, I think if there's one word to summarize it all, it is choice. I think JumpCloud helps give people choice, and people need choice to pick what they need is best for their organization. So yeah, thanks so much for your time, Tony. Really do appreciate it. Thanks. Congrats again on the award. I did see all the coverage coming through from Google Next the other week.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really cool.
Appreciate
I'm sure you're going to continue to sort of really grow onwards and upwards with it as part of the new part of the Insight organization. So exciting times ahead.
We're definitely going to work towards that. We don't take any previous success for granted, and we don't rest on that. So I just see tons of opportunity because of the scale and the platform and the incumbency now we have with so many customers that already do business with Insight. I think we're in a great position to do a lot of great work together and hopefully be recognized again next year.
Sure you will. Thanks for your time.